First, we have with us the CEO and founder of Davos in the Desert, David Wanetick. David is a world-renowned authority on business development and patent valuation. He's also an investment banker and the author of 7 books. His work helping business leaders thrive aligns with his mission for Davos in the Desert to safeguard liberty. David, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Can you start by telling us actually a little bit about yourself and how you became an unapologetic anti-globalist?
Well, I've always been conservative, even all the way back to when I was in college. I was the chairman of the college Republicans, and I had an internship at the Heritage Foundation and with the Jack Kemp campaign many years ago. So, from a young age, I was always conservative and have been active in the Republican Party. But I like starting my own initiatives and developing initiatives by myself. And I thought that there needs to be some organization to counter the globalists. There are some other great people. The Sovereignty Coalition does great work, but we want to supplement their efforts. And we're based in Arizona, and Arizona is a very pivotal state in the elections. And we're bringing our anti-globalist message to lawmakers at the state level and federal level.
Can you pause it for us? What is the central problem with globalization as you see it?
Oh, there's 2 main problems, or 3. Globalists infringe upon national sovereignty. And I think every country should be able to write its own laws and manage its own borders. And another problem is globalists think that they know everything and can manage everyone's life for them on a micro level. And I think that people should have liberty and freedom, and they should have the right to decide which injections they inject into their bodies. And they should have the right to free speech without being censored and having that censorship dictated by a globalist organization such as the WHO or the United Nations. On the WHO's website, they boast about having basically censored almost 1 million videos on YouTube within 1 year. We believe that individuals should decide what food they eat, dairy or meat, and not have to be compelled or pressured into eating insects. We believe that people should be able to purchase cars and travel beyond a 15-minute radius of their homes. And globalists don't think that we are intelligent enough to make those kinds of decisions. And much of their theory is based on fraud, a hoax of climate change. There really is no man-made climate change, but it's a great excuse to dictate how everyone on the planet should live their lives. And maybe even more important than that, very concerned that some globalists simply want to reduce the worldwide population. Some of them want to practice democide. Some of them have gone on record saying that there's simply too many people, and instead of having 7 or 8 billion people on the planet, we should have as little as 1 to 2 billion. And some have even said 500 million is the more appropriate number. So I don't believe in wholesale slaughter of human beings. I don't believe that people are simply worthless eaters or hackable animals.
You talked about a lot of concerns now in your great speech at the conference. Is there something that is sort of the #1 thing you would want people to pay attention to? I mean, everything you just described is a lot for your average person to kind of digest. Is there a tip of the spear or something we should pay particular attention to?
I would say trust yourself more than some self-appointed apostles of omniscience. I don't think you should subrogate your thinking and your decision making to a few elites that congregate in Switzerland. Just be aware of people that tell you that they can live your life better than you can live your life.
And you also talked about it being what's before us right now is an existential threat. So basically our very existence. How close are we to that? And what actually is at stake in your mind?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure that democide will be imposed upon us any time in the near future. However, the WHO wants the rights to declare anything a pandemic, or even the risk of a pandemic. However, they define that, and they define it very broadly. It can be a so-called threat to people, animals, plants, the environment. Misuse of guns can be deemed to be a pandemic, and therefore the WHO would like to impose all of their rules on us. And some of those rules could include people have to get vaccinated. We witnessed that a couple years ago. And who knows how effective the vaccines will be. Some scholars have said that 17 million people have perished because of the vaccines that were introduced during COVID-19. I haven't done that research, but some people have come up with that number. So that's a very large number. We see the war against farmers all over the world, especially in Europe right now. But quite simply, people can't live if they don't have food. And the globalists are effectively pushing farmers off the farmlands. And, it's even more vicious than that. If the globalists think that a couple farms here and there are terrible for the environment and they shut them down, well, that's bad. But why disallow those farmers for practicing their profession at another farm? And that's what's happening. It's a complete war against farmers, and we simply can't live without the fruits and vegetables and meats that are produced on farmlands. So there could be starvation. Even in Europe and the UK, food is a bit scarce. Even before the farmer strikes, it's still somewhat available, but there's a lot of working people, 2 income earners per household, that are struggling to put food on the table. And it's because, to a large extent, of the globalists' mission.
So the farmers are in the streets, and they've obviously been awakened to things because it's touching them personally. And, maybe what they're doing is also helping awaken other people. But generally speaking, there hasn't been a lot of discussion about what's going on, and certainly not in the, halls of power where people can actually affect change. So how do you see this transitioning into something bigger?
Well, I think there are a lot of people that are concerned. The plight of the farmers is being brought to the attention of a lot of people. It's in the news every day for the last couple months. I think, the globalist notion that there shouldn't be any borders, that, there shouldn't be any separate countries and we're all one big happy family, and shouldn't be able to control who comes into each of our countries. I think people are concerned about the mass waves of immigration that we've experienced in the United States, that the Europeans are experiencing. They realize that, of course, some of the people are very fine people that are coming, but there's also human trafficking. There's also child trafficking, child labor, fentanyl that's killing hundreds of people every week. And we see that it's crowding us out on the airplanes. Tickets are expensive because there's more demand from the illegal aliens. Fewer pilots too, because many of them have been dismissed because they didn't want to subject themselves to vaccines. You go to hotels; they're often filled with illegal aliens. So hotel rooms are more expensive. We see in our communities they're building refugee centers and taking over parks, taking over schools. And we're starting to wake up to this. And the liberals that have these ideas of sanctuary city and talk the talk about being very welcoming, well, we saw what happened when a busload of illegal aliens pulled up to Vice President Kamala Harris's house. She didn't offer them one glass of water, not one sandwich, not one apple, nothing. They were dispatched and pushed away as soon as they arrived. And the same in Martha's Vineyard. The liberals there talk about how welcoming they are until the first busload of immigrants pulls up, and then they show no mercy and dispatch with them as quickly as possible.
We've got about a minute left. I'd like you to tell us a little bit about Davos and the Desert and what your plans are for it. I should mention that NTD streamed the Lockdown Nation conference that you had earlier this week, and you can still find it on NTD if you go to ntd.com/live, and you'll find it there. But tell us, what are the plans for Davos and the Desert?
Well, we'll continue to support anti-globalist legislation. We live in Andy Biggs's district, a very fine congressman, and he's introduced HR 79, which is the withdrawal from the WHO Act. We support that. We support Congressman Perry's recently introduced legislation called the Defund Davos Act, which says that the United States will no longer supply the World Economic Forum with any economic benefits. So we continue to support that legislation. We have events on a regular basis. Some of the events, promote our anti-globalist mission. Some of them are platforms for Republican candidates to speak. And we do try to help communities that are experiencing terrible things. We had a great speaker talk about North Korea. We have some leading Uyghurs that will talk about the genocide being perpetrated against the Uyghur community in China. We've had speakers talk about the terror that Hamas inflicts on their own Gazan brothers. So we do as much good as we can.
All right, David Wanetick, CEO of Davos in the Desert. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.